This is part A of the Khoodeelaar television channel. Khoodeelaar television channel broadcasting on the internet. This broadcast is timed at 10:50 hours GMT on Saturday, the 29th of July 2023. This is part A. We are broadcasting under the banner of the baby angel Geronimo. Baby angel Geronimo editions. So this one is starting with the Times of London today, Saturday the 29th of July 2023. We are not doing this because of any connection with anything to do with Shuhada Sadakat, as she became known, declared herself to be called Shuhada Sadakat on her becoming a Muslim in 2018. We're doing this because in the Times piece, Okona, which is not her name, because her name is Shuhadat Sadakat. This piece by Constance Kampfner. Now we shall come to that name, Kampfner, later in this edition. It makes no reference whatsoever to the fact that she became a Muslim, and she has been a Muslim since becoming a Muslim in 2018. So that's 5 years, at least 5 calendar years, during which time she has been a Muslim. So they're completely omitting all references to her being Shuhada Sadaqah or the fact that she is a Muslim. What they're doing is, the headline is, O'Connor had made wonderful plans. So these plans are obviously, whatever those plans were dated years after 2018. How can those be relevant and fact, whereas the fact that she has been a Muslim for at least 5 years is being completely denied by the Times? And this piece by the byline is given to Constance Kampfner. Now, let's check this Kampfner if she is connected with the racist criminal John Kampfner, who is a spy, who has been a spy, an operative for the British intelligence, while wearing the cover, multiple cover as a media person. So let's check this Constance Kampfner, who she is, if she is related to this John Kampfner. So the reviewer. And because he's a spy, his entry on the Wikipedia is completely pointless. It doesn't have the date of birth or the year of birth. Only it says that he was born in Singapore. Now we can't find any. Let's see what, if any. Camp. And the pictures that are available online suggest that she might be aged under 40, and there is no reference to her by name in the entry that does exist under the name of John Kampner, whose entry simply mentions he has got two children. So we can't say whether this Constance Kampner is related to this criminal. Whether she is related or not doesn't matter, because she is running a completely hostile, anti Muslim, dishonest, and criminally conceived piece of denial about Shuhada Sadakat. And as we said in the post on our Twitter account, the Khoodeelaar Twitter account, we shall be publishing what we find accessible online about Shuhada Sadakat from now on. We hadn't done that until today. We had partially done that, but not in a systematic way, which we are doing starting from today. And this piece, byline to Constance Kampner, has got, it is printed across the page, 5 columns of the Murdoch owned Times on 15th page, page 15 of today's Times, Saturday, 29th of July 2023. Now, we shall be talking about the lies of Murdoch papers, because the scum runs the piece on today's edition of the Scum. The front page has got a big trailer which says Prince of Fails. And what they are saying is that Harry Windsor and Meghan Markle are living separately. And the main piece they're running, the claim is that the judge has thrown out Harry's case against the Sun about the various hacking and so on. But the Sun is not reporting the part of the decision by the judge which says that Harry's claims against the Sun can go to a full trial, which is far from saying that Harry's case has been thrown out. And they can't have enough of this body called Miley class. Any excuse and they will run any number of near naked photographs of Miley class showing her body. And it's all the women's bodies that the Murdoch scum has got trading on. Now we shall be returning to the topic, the subject of the ultra emission zones. Court ruling on Friday that ruled that Sadiq Khan, in the post as mayor in the name of London, can go ahead with extending the ultra emission zone in London and the suburbs. Because this is a new, exceptional issue, given exceptionally positive coverage by the scum. Normally, anything that relates to Sadiq Khan, they would give it the worst possible presentation. This time they haven't done it, which raises the question as to what is lying behind that. Because the scum is dedicated to opposing everything and anything that Sadiq Khan does, not because of the principle of what he does, but because he is a Muslim, regardless of the fact that he is a very shallow and corrupt individual. And the anti Muslim, Southern Africa born Matthew Paris is continuing his devotion to the cause of the propaganda for Rishi Sunak. Now, permanently calling him decent PM. So, on the Times letters, there is Faraj, which appears to be in response to the letter against Faraj yesterday in the Times on Friday. Let's see what it is, whether it is actually against Nasty Faraj or not. It is against the letter that was published on Friday, and it is in support of the Times writer Ian Martin. And it reads, Ian Martin is right to support what Nigel Farage has done. The wobbly edifice of woke corporate culture that he has exposed should horrify every citizen. What is also horrifying is the response to date from sections of the establishment. Instead of seeing the problem, they have tried to continue the cover up. Too many seem to believe that their emotional dislike of someone is rational and justifies any action they care to take. We need constant reminders that justice depends on fact and evidence and not on personal attitudes. The next stage in this saga will be the uncovering of the way banks have kept hidden the closure of small businesses that rely on using cash. And the second letter, which is headlined not by name about Faraj, but as bank closures. Howard Davies has given high praise to Dame Alison Rose for her leadership of NatWest and her achievements. From a customer viewpoint, however, she has presided over the closure of many branches, even in fairly major conurbations that serve large catchment areas, thus leaving many people without essential branch services. I'm not sure I would consider that an achievement. It's a writer who's seen as a woman, Margaret Ada, Chalfont, St. Peter, Buckinghamshire. And there is a letter from Lancashire which is headed Peddlers and Police Play Colonial Ritual. The understanding between police and peddlers in Madrid follows a fine colonial tradition. In pre independent Singapore, Chang Alley was a narrow lane between two skyscrapers where goods were displayed on the ground on large sheets. You could buy almost anything, even a pair of windscreen wipers guaranteed to fit your car. Though when you got back to your car, you would realize where they had come from. The police would make regular search for unlicensed traders, but were always careful to arrive very noisily at one end of the alley, which let their targets run out of their other end with their goods in the sheet on their backs. Normal business was resumed minutes after police drove off. Now, the newspapers today, of course, are returning to issues that, on the front page, of course, anyway, don't refer to Nasty Nigel Farage. So we go back to the piece, actually, the piece that the Modern Scum wrote, published on page one of the Scum on the 27th of July, Thursday, the day after the official discovery or the announcement of, of her death. Now, there is no mention, and I'm saying this because I've read this before, but I'm saying this because I'm reading it again. They don't call her by her Muslim name, which is a real name. It says pop star Sinead O'Connor was being mourned by her devastated family last night after her death at 56. The Irish singer and activist was best known for her 1990 number one hit, Nothing Compares to You. And this is the headline they have put on the piece, which is Nothing Compared to You, Sinead. And she's not around to comment on their coverage of her passing. If she were around, she would have condemned them. She would have condemned them in the language that was used by the They don't deny anything else about her. Everything else that she did, but they deny one thing that she did most comprehensively and definitively. She said, not once, she said many times, that she never set out to become a pop star. And she was even surprised by the fact that people liked her music or songs. That was And the piece that they have got on pages 8 and 9 of the Thursday edition of this picture of her last outing at Music How is it that they dare distort her own choice of becoming a Muslim and choosing a name, a Muslim name for herself? How do they think that she would respond to that? That they are completely denying all of that. Because in the pictures that if you if you search under this new name, Muslim name, let's check again, Shuhada, Sadakat. You've got Shuhada Sadakat wearing Muslim headgear and Muslim dress in the picture published by the Irish Post. And she changed her name, according to the Irish Post, she changed her name to Shuhada Sadakat by deed poll. There's a legal process. And according to the, well, we'll go to the Irish Kashmiri item or Kashmiri news outlet later. So the Irish Post has got the picture of her smiling, and it's a picture published on the item by Irish Post on the 21st of June 2021. She's smiling and not depressed or bipolar or anything. And according to we'll go to the latest piece on the Los Angeles Times shortly, but let's go back to the piece the Irish Post published. Sinead O'Connor has revealed she is planning to legally change her name by deed poll to Shuhada Sadakat. The Nothing Compares to You singer has been using the name ever since converting to Islam back in 2018. Writing in the Sunday Independent, O'Connor revealed that while her close friends call her Baldy because of her shaving her head, she now wishes to ditch her Irish name for good in favor of her Islamic moniker. Now, remember what the Irish Post is saying, that she wishes to ditch her Irish name for good. That means forever. So, how did the Times today run the piece completely ignoring her and still calling her Sinead and not one word of her being a Muslim? O'Connor said, I prefer my Islamic name and I'm thinking I'll make the legal name change by deed poll soon, which she did. But the music business folks are nervous in case people won't know it's me on the adverse. They would rather I stuck with Sinead. But something tells me they needn't be worrying. As long as my big ugly mug is on the posters, we should be okay. I have a beautiful and loving fan base. She continued, my best friends call me Boldy. If they're English, they call me Schnaz. I like all my names. The Irish musician also said, in a tribute to the staff and patients at St. Patrick's University Hospital, where she is currently residing. And there is a picture of her, a Getty image, in a green outfit, a Muslim outfit with full headgear. O'Connor, who has struggled with mental health issues over the years, dedicated her acclaimed new memoir, Rememberings, to their efforts. These people are my second family, and this is my second home, and will be all my life, she said. The love I have been given here is so tender and so strong that it's impossible to describe. She's talking about the hospital. The comments come just days after O'Connor announced she was retiring from music and closing down her Twitter account to live as a private citizen. She has cancelled all her upcoming tour dates and has no plans to support her upcoming final album, Veteran Dies Alone, which is due to be released in April 2020. So they've got her picture as a Muslim, and the Irish Post, way back in 2021, gave detailed explanation by her that she prefers a Muslim name. So why is the Times today denying her all of that? Who gave them the right to change her name against her wish, against her own decisions? How could this be explained other than the fact that they are anti Muslim, anti Islam? That's the only reason. Because they had to accept and acknowledge that she is a superstar, they can't deny her artistic work and her activist work, but they do deny her Muslim name and her Muslim reasoning. So let's go back to the Los Angeles Times and see uh, what the Los Angeles Times had said. And there, Los Angeles Times also has her picture as a fully Muslim dressed woman speaking in front of the microphone anyway. She's they say in the caption, Sinead O'Connor, seen in 2020, announced she is retiring from music. And the picture credit is to Andrew Chin, stroke Getty Images. That's from June. Michael Ordona, the staff writer, filing this item on the 7th of June 2021. That is the time when the Irish Post was running that item, similar item, describing herself as the newly converted Muslim Shuhada. Shania Kona, the iconoclastic singer songwriter, also known as Shuhada Sadakat, and Mother Bernadette Maria. Well, Mother Bernadette Maria had been superseded by Shuhada Sadakat for some time after she became a Muslim, is retiring from touring and recording. This is to announce my retirement from touring and from working in the record business, she wrote in a tweet Friday. I've gotten older and I'm tired. So it's time for me to hang up my nipple tassels, having truly given my all. NVDA in 2022 will be my last release, and there will be no more touring or promo. O'Connor's 11th album, No Veteran Dies Alone, NVDA of her tweet, is being helmed by Irish producer David Holmes and scheduled for release next year. And they do a screen grab of her tweet. And there are quite a few exchanges and comments and replies to her fans who were expressing sadness about her announcement. That is the Los Angeles Times item published in June 2021. The one they published on, well, Friday, Saturday, Thursday, I would say. This is the one that I'm going to read. This is the one that has got the picture of her, probably the one that was was shot to fame in the 1990s and sparked controversy with an anti-pope message on live television in the United States, has died at age 56. This one is Nardin Saad, SAAD, staff writer, dated the 26th of July 2023. And this one stars Irish singer songwriter Sinead O'Connor. They don't call her Shuhada Sadakat there yet, but they will in the later part of the piece. Who shot to fame in 1990 with a shaved head and the princely hit Nothing Compares to You. Now, these criminals keep referring to Prince, but according to Shuhada Sadakat, Prince was an evil person who physically beat her up at his house at the time that she was there. And she has detailed notes on her being attacked by him. And then she escaped while he wasn't looking. The death of the soulful, complicated star, whose mental health struggles often threatened to eclipse her art, was announced in a family statement Wednesday, issued to the BBC. She was 56. Representatives for O'Connor, they don't call her Shad, who changed her name to Shuhada Shadakat. Now, they don't say that in referring to her in the main. It is only within kind of explanatory part of this statement that they acknowledge Shuhada Sadakat. Representatives for O'Connor, who changed her name to Shuhada Sadakat later in life, well, what is the point of later in life, you morons? If you know anything about what you have published about her being an activist, a campaigner, then later in life is not an illogical point, it's the logical point. Because she has tried to get attention, serious attention by the Catholic establishment and the rest of the world on the sexual abuse of children by the Catholic Church. By all accounts, she was sexually abused while she was under the control of the Catholic Church. How do you think it is possible for a child victim of rape by the church to just escape without having to struggle and without having to struggle for years? That incident on the Saturday show, Saturday Live, Saturday is it? Saturday evening or Saturday morning or Saturday, the show that she actually was on when she tore up the picture of the then Roman Catholic padre or pope. What is the name of that program? Let's get that one right. So it was Saturday night, was it? Let's check the Saturday Night Live. It's a Saturday Night Live, okay? And So this was on the 3rd of October 1992 that she appeared on the American television program Saturday Night Live and staged a protest to draw attention to child abuse in the Catholic Church. Well, what she was talking about was rape, children being raped by the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church was continuing to cover up the rapes. As a musical guest on the show, O'Connor was originally scheduled to sing Success Has Made a Failure of Our Home and Scarlet Ribbons, two songs from the album she was promoting at the time. Am I Not Your Girl? However, the day before her live appearance, she asked and got permission from the show's production crew to replace the latter performance with a rendition of Bob Marley's 1976 song War. She intended to revise it as a protest against the church's child abuse, and at its confusion, now I'll read that again. She intended to revise it as a protest against the church's child abuse, and at its conclusion, unexpectedly tore up a photograph of Pope John Paul II on live television. There is a picture in the entry of the incident. O'Connor protesting the cover up of Catholic Church child rapes as she tore a picture of Pope John Paul II into many pieces on live television in 1992. On the 3rd of October 1992, the Irish singer performed two songs as the musical guest on the American television program Saturday Night Live to promote her new album Am I Not Your Girl? According to Daniel Glass, an executive at O'Connor's record label, at this point O'Connor was a controversial figure who had not had a hit song in a while. She had shaved her head after being told by a record executive to appear more feminine, had once refused to play the Star Spangled Banner before a show, and had boycotted the Grammy Awards the year she was nominated, feeling they were too commercial. For her first performance on Saturday Night Live, O'Connor performed a cover of the 1962 song Success Has Made a Failure of Our Home. According to Daniel Glass, that is, the performance was well received by two influential figures in the alternative rock radio who told him they would add the record to their playlists. For her second performance, O'Connor sang an a cappella version of Bob Marley's 1976 song War. She wore a necklace with a Rastafari star and a scar with the Rastafari and Ethiopian colors and stared into the camera for the entirety of the performance. As she approached the final line of the song, she presented a photograph of Pope John Paul II, taken during his 1979 visit to Iceland. While singing the word evil, she tore the photograph into pieces, said, "Fight the real enemy," and threw the pieces towards the camera. O'Connor made the statement in protest of child sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. Her performance took place 9 years before John Paul II publicly acknowledged the abuse within the church. In 2010, O'Connor said she had wanted to force a conversation where there was a need for one, which she felt was part of being an artist. In her 2021 memoir, Rememberings, O'Connor described herself as a protest singer, not a pop star, who had stuff to get off my chest. She said she had taken photographs from her mother's bedroom wall after her death and waited until the right moment to destroy it in revenge for the physical abuse she suffered as a child. Now, this is something that is also very serious. Obviously, her mother abused her. The SNL had no foreknowledge of O'Connor's plan. During the dress rehearsal, she had held up a photo of a refugee child. Glass said everyone at SNL froze and did not know what to do, and that the music producer, Liz Welch, went from jubilation to tears. The NBC vice president, I'll read that again. The NBC vice president of late night, Rick Ludwin, recalled that when he saw O'Connor's action, he literally jumped out of his chair. The SNL writer Paula Pell recalled personnel in the control room booth discussing the cameras cutting away. The audience was completely silent with no booing or applause. The executive producer, Lorne Michaels, recalled that the air went out the studio. He ordered that the applause sign not be used. After the performance, O'Connor returned to her dressing room. According to Glass, he found her talking to herself. Her hands were behind her back. She had her socks on, and she was doing something between poetry and chanting. So that's the entry. A nationwide audience saw O'Connor's live performance, which the New York Times, no, the New York Daily News cover called a holy terror. NBC received more than 500 calls on Sunday and 400 more on Monday, with all but seven criticizing O'Connor. It received 4,400 calls in total. Contrary to rumor, NBC was not fined by the Federal Communications Commission for O'Connor's act, as the FCC has no regulatory power over such behavior. NBC Night, as of NBC, did not edit the performance out of the West Coast tape delayed broadcast that night. As of 2016, NBC broadcast reruns of the episode using footage from the dress rehearsal. During his opening monologue the following week, Catholic raised host Joe Pesci mocked O'Connor by holding up the photo she had torn up, explaining that he had taped it back together to huge applause. Pesci also said that if it had been his show, I would have gave her such a smack. Criticism continued in the following days. The Anti Defamation League condemned O'Connor. The National Ethnic Coalition of organizations hired a steamroller to crush hundreds of copies of O'Connor's album outside her record company's headquarters. The conservative newspaper, the Washington Times, named O'Connor the face of pure hatred, and the American singer Frank Sinatra called her a stupid broad. O'Connor received support from several members of the Rastafarian community and the Chicago Sun-Times columnist Richard Roeper, among others. The American singer Madonna, who was raised Catholic, appeared on SNL later that season. After performing her single Bad Girl, she held up a photo of the sex offender Joey Buttafuoco, said, "Fight the real enemy," and tore it up. Madonna criticized O'Connor in the press, telling the Irish Times, I think there is a better way to present her ideas rather than ripping up an image that means a lot of the other people if she is against. Okay, let's say this again because I have misread one. Madonna criticized O'Connor in the press, telling the Irish Times, I think there is a better way to present her ideas rather than ripping up an image that means a lot to other people. If she is against the Roman Catholic Church and she has a problem with them, I think she should talk about it. The New York Times journalist John Perilis called Madonna's response an act of professional jealousy and wrote, after Madonna had herself gowned, harnessed, strapped down, and fully stripped to promote her album Erotica and her book Sex, O'Connor stole the spotlight with one photograph of a fully clothed man. But the other vilification that descended on O'Connor showed she had stuck an arm. In a 1993 editorial for Spin, the American publisher Bob Guccione Jr. wrote, Madonna savaged her in the press, obviously to fuel publicity for sex and sales of her new album Erotica. But when Sinead controversy threatened to siphon some of the attention from the impending release of Sex, Madonna conveniently found religion again. In November 1991, a year before the incident, O'Connor had told Spin, Madonna is probably the hugest role model for women in America. There is a woman who people look up to as being a woman, who campaigns for women's rights, a woman who, in an abusive way towards me, said that I looked like I had a run with the lawnmower, and that I was about as sexy as a Venetian blind. Now, that is the woman that America looks up to as being a campaigner for women, slagging off another woman for not being sexy. Now, that is way too far above anything that Madonna could ever achieve. And Bob Dylan tribute. 2 weeks after her appearance on Saturday Night Live, O'Connor was set to perform I Believe in You at the 30th anniversary tribute for Bob Dylan in Madison Square Garden. She was greeted by cheers and boos. On stage, Chris Christopherson told O'Connor not to let the bastards get you down, to which she replied, I'm not down. The noise became so loud that O'Connor saw no point in performing I Believe in You. She called for the keyboard player to stop and the microphone to be turned up, then screamed over the audience with an improvised, shouted rendition of war. She stopped just after mentioning child abuse, emphasizing the point of her previous action. She then looked straight to the audience for a second and left the stage. Christopherson then comforted her and she burst out crying. O'Connor's performance was not included on the CD release. The Saturday Night Live incident is widely considered to have done permanent damage to O'Connor's career and reputation while she was alive, although she never regretted her decision throughout the rest of her life. In 2002 interview with Salon, when asked if she would change anything about the SNL appearance, O'Connor replied, Hell no. In her 2021 memoir, Rememberings, O'Connor wrote that the incident put her back on the right track, following a personal crisis stemming from the success of Nothing Compares to You. In 2009, Christopherson released a tribute song, Sister Sinead, a song that O'Connor wrote and performed live at the Madison Square Garden. influential woman of 1992, with the filmmaker Olivia Wilde writing that she remains an example of the power of provoking necessary, if unpopular, conversations and the courage it takes to do so. Recently, I have read in full on the incident on Saturday Night Live and the implications. And the Los Angeles Times piece refers to her as the Muslim named person, of course. And there is an item on Al Jazeera English, I think, that also makes the point that the Western media are refusing to recognize her being a Muslim, that she is. What we on this program and in this campaign will be doing, we shall put together as a tribute to Shuhada Sadakat a compilation of the comments and analysis, and we hope to publish this to coincide with her date which best fits her, either the Saturday Night Live event, or her date of birth, or her date of becoming a Muslim. Because what Shuhada Sadakat becoming a Muslim has done, as far as I'm concerned, and this is a personal note as a Muslim, is this. This is the only white individual that I have commented on in public as a in the context of Islam. Because as a Muslim, I've been in the Western European place for more than half a century as probably the most active individual that I know, and I have not sought draw attention to the fact that I'm a Muslim. The only time I have referred to Islam in public and to the status of Muslims in the Western world is when that is relevant to the denial of basic human rights to Muslims because they're Muslims, not because I'm a Muslim, but because I would do the same thing as I have done in defense of the Hindus. When the slave channel, also known as Channel S, fronted by the multiple convicted criminal Mahi Fardaus Jalil, when the Hindus were attacked by the criminal, convicted criminal, that the reason why they were charging people, the reason why some of the Bangladeshi origin grocery shops in areas like Brick Lane were overcharging people during the onset of the COVID 19 price crisis, etc., was because some of them were descendants of Hindus. Now, obviously, Mahi Fardaus Jalil is a proven criminal, a proven liar, and a proven idiot. How did he know that any Muslim who was misbehaving because they had Hindu blood in them? How does it explain anything? So I have comprehensively condemned Mahi Fardaus Jalil for attacking Muslims and attacking Hindus. Now, what I am doing in relation to Shuhada Sadaqah is that this is a woman who campaigns based on her own experience as a child at home. She was sexually, in all contexts, she was sexually heavily traumatized by her mother sexually attacking her. I would go to that far. And so, therefore, if her mother was a rapist, effectively, which is what I am calling her mother, then the rest of the Catholic so called society, the rest of the Catholic culture and the Catholic kind of community could not be conceivably relied on, trusted to give her any support, any sanctuary, any peace, any love. One of the things that has already been kind of published since her passing is that when she was a child, now just imagine the indescribable trauma that this child was going through. When she was a child, she would go to her neighbors' doors and knock on their doors, and in all frankness, she would ask them if they would make her accept her as their child. Now, where do you begin to express that trauma? Where does that child go? Where is the love? A child most deserves the protection, the comfort, the support, the encouragement, the respect. Where was all of that? Why was all of that missing from her life? And she crossed all the hurdles, she overcome all of that, and she managed to think about composing, about creating, about thinking, and she became, as they have had to acknowledge eventually, she became, in their language, a superstar. And after all of that, she says she's not going to be doing this anymore. 40 years long journey she has had, and she has had enough of it. She never set out to become a star, pop star or whatever. She had, she said, stuff to get off her chest, which she did. Now, all these people that were booing and kind of jeering at the Madison Square Gardens in the USA, where she was supposed to perform at the event, marking some event to do with Bob Dylan. Chris Christopherson, highly respectful of her, told her not to let the bastards get her down. And she said she was not down. Now, it doesn't take a lot to imagine just how up there she was. And the fact that she was up there after going through the childhood, not only at an abusive, sexually abusive, raping mother, she was also raped by the church. And where did she reach? I can only I can only say the few words from the poem of Qazi Nazrul Islam. The rebel, বলবীর উন্নত মম শির শির নেহারি আমারি নত শির ওই শিকড় হিমাদ্রির. Nazrul wrote, addressing the imaginary hero, Shir Nehari Amari, my head is not bowed. If anyone or anything is bowed, it is the peak, it is the very peak of the Mount Everest, the Himalayas. Shir Nehari Amari, Noto Shir, Oi Shikor Himadri. So, in paying fact based, contemporary, topical, much needed tribute to this fighter, we shall be compiling a multilingual, multimedia, multidimensional tribute to this Muslim woman. Now, I mean, there can be no more powerful combination. A fighting Shuhada Sadaqat, the Irish princess, as she called herself, and the most reviled faith on the face of the earth, Islam. You combine the two, and you find the alternative, the answer, the opposite to everything that is corrupt, everything that is untruthful, everything that is wrong on the face of the earth. I mean, this is a superstar according to their commercial language, and she says, "I never wanted to be a star. I just wanted to get stuff off my back, off my chest." What did the poem Nazrul wrote say? Let's see if you can find this. So he wrote that, Nazrul wrote that, what, 102 years ago. And it was published 101 year ago. And here, the English translation by whoever has done the translation is obviously done by a person who doesn't know either language well. So I'm going to find the actual poem. Because it's quite a long poem in Bangla, and remember it was published 101 year ago when the imperialists were still in imperial occupation of the subcontinent. Bolo বীর bolo উন্নত মম শির শির নেহারি আমারি নত শির ওই শিকর হিমাদ্রির বলো মহাবিশ্বের মহাকাশ ফাড়ি চন্দ্র সূর্য গ্রহ তারা ছাড়ি ভুলক দুলক ঘুলক বেদিয়া খোদার আসন আরস ছেদিয়া উঠিয়াছি চির বিস্ময় আমি বিশ্ববিদাত্রীর। Now, these are all these phrases and all these words consistently rebellious. Now, Nazrul did come with experience of poverty and lack of food and lack of nourishment from his background. But I don't think there is any evidence that he suffered as this girl suffered. Especially the sexual abuse that she suffered. So, Nazrul was comparatively less traumatized or could be less traumatized. Of course, the trauma that he suffered from the at the hands of the British who imprisoned him for speaking the truth and for asking for freedom from empire was as traumatizing, but it was of a different order. So this poem I shall be reading another time, but this stanza worth reading in this edition. It says, মহাবীর রণক্লান্ত আমি সেই দিন হব শান্ত যবে উৎপীড়িতের ক্রন্দন রোল আকাশে বাতাসে দনিবে না অত্যাচারীর খড়গ কৃপান ভীম রণভূমে রণিবে না বিদ্রোহী রণক্লান্ত আমি সেই দিন হব শান্ত rebel tired of war I shall only rest on that day when the oppressive sword of the oppressor won't reign in the ether. I shall only rest on that day. আমি চিরবিদ্রোহী বীর বিশ্ব ছাড়ায় উঠিয়াছি একা চির উন্নতশীল now he arose alone so much of what shuhada sadakat had to fight so much of what she was inspired by prompted by propelled by absolutely 100% fits the imagery that Nazrul put in his poem. So she is not here, but we shall be fitting as much of the rebel to be depicted by her as well as by other people, but by her. And that will be a combination of a tribute to her as a fighter for justice, for rights. I mean, the stuff to get off her chest is a simpler way of talking about the cries for justice, the testimony, the evidence of the traumatizing experience. So we shall this particular edition at 1 hour 34 minutes long, and the time is 12:21 GMT on Saturday, the 29th of July 2023.